Dr. Nettleman started Nettleman Land Consultants to share his love and passion for land surveying with others. From early childhood, Tony began surveying in his family business and has been learning ever since. He brings the knowledge from 4 university degree programs, thousands of hours of experience, and many hundreds of land disputes to land surveyors, attorneys, and property owners in the nation. NLC's primary mission is to educate others through expert witness consulting, which is why we have Tony on tonight, live and online education, again on tonight, thank you, Tony, and land surveying tech preparation and university course lectures. Tony Nettleman graduated with honors from New Mexico State University with a bachelor's of surveying, a bachelor's of science in land surveying engineering, and a master of science in geospatial engineering from Texas A&M Corpus Christi with honors, a PhD in geomatics at the University of Florida, and a Juris Doctor at Florida International University. While attending various universities, Tony has worked with several multinational engineering firms, in addition to teaching classes at Troy University, Florida Atlantic University, University of Florida, and Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. Tony lectures on various professional groups and serves as an expert witness. He is licensed as a Florida attorney and a Florida professional surveyor and a Texas professional surveyor. So without further ado, Mr. Nettleman, we appreciate you jumping on again for us tonight. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you having me. This is such a great place.
Awesome.
I can't believe how few resources there are for land surveyors to learn stuff, like the YouTube channel. I'm a pilot too, and there's about 20 pilot YouTube channels that post all the time. It's like packed with information. Surveying, there's nothing. It's like 2 or 3 maybe. So, we're really lucky to have Mentoring Mondays, and I'm really glad you guys are here. I recognize a lot of names here. I may not know you exactly, but I recognize your name. I know Rob McMillan's been on a bunch of these, so I got to give him a heads up. Well, thank you for coming. This is a 2-hour presentation. It's kind of condensed because this is usually a 6 or an 8-hour expert witness seminar. So if you do like this stuff, you want more information, keep your eyes peeled and join us for the full show. But this is the best of the best, the highlights. So it's a lot of fun. Now, before we get started, I've got 2 things. Now, the first one is I am desperately seeking a West Virginia licensed surveyor to make a job legal. And I called like every West Virginia firm in the country, and they don't even, like, I'm too busy. They're too busy involved in dispute. So if you got a West Virginia license, email me. I got a job for you. It's easy. A bridge has been built in the wrong location. I'll just say that much, possibly. And number 2, I got a funny story for you guys. So I went to the dealership today to pay for my wife's new car, and it's a Toyota. So I went next door to the Dodge dealership where they have the pickup trucks, and I was looking around at these new trucks. Now, there are a lot of features you expect in a new truck these days. Adaptive cruise control, heated and air-cooled seats, a lot of great stuff. Now, the one thing you probably would not expect is if you lift up this center console, you get the Pythagorean theorem.
What?
What? I about choked when I laughed so hard. And it even gives you it's got a protractor and a whole bunch of other stuff on the back side of this center console. So I've never in my life seen a vehicle with the trigonometric ratios and the Pythagorean theorem listed, but this may be the truck for you if you're searching for a vehicle and you forget your trig functions.
What the heck?
Yeah.
I need law of cosines because I can remember all that stuff.
Yeah, this is easy.
The law of cosines is the one that kills me.
2AB sine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. And I had a bunch of other formulas too, which I laughed. So it just kind of surprised me. You never know what they're going to try to incorporate into vehicles these days to purchase. And it actually, broke the ice a little bit with a dealer, and I ended up buying it. So it's a really funny story, but you don't know what the heck is up with people, or, what these car designers ever go through their minds.
That's fantastic.
Ridiculous.
Just real quick before you get into your thing, Josh says he's got a couple of guys in Georgia that are licensed in West Virginia. So.
Oh yeah. email me. Trent will put my, actually, I'll put my email address here in the chat box. I'm going to keep this chat open too, so I can see you guys. Oh yeah, you got my email address. Perfect. Yeah, set me up, Josh. Email me. It's been ridiculous. I spent like 2 hours today calling people, and they just, blow you off completely. I said, name your price, whatever you want for one day. Just name a price and show up.
Oh my gosh.
I'm too busy.
I love Dr. Pivas. Law of cosines is an extra option.
Extra cost option. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a sad day when trucks are almost $100,000, but whatever.
Yep.
Pass on the cost to somebody else, right?
Crazy.
All right. So now we get into our show. And the first question I get asked a lot is, well, why would I ever want to become an expert witness? I have a pretty good practice. I'm making good money. I'm having a, doing my thing. Why would I want to get involved in this stuff? And I tell people for 3 reasons. First of all, it's really mind-twisting work. I think about my past 30 days. I did an oil and gas boundary survey in Houston. I did a riparian survey for this really beautiful lake in Orlando, just a gorgeous property. And then I was on a U.S. interstate bridge that's been under construction since 2006. 2006. And why has it been under construction for so long? Because it has like 25 subcontractors, and they know something's wrong because the steel beams that connect the bridge don't fit the bolts. There's a problem. But who is to blame? Did they cut the steel wrong? Did they put the bolts in wrong? Is there something else going on? Is the control on the job site wrong? And you have a whole bunch of people, kind of casting blame among each other. And it's just, even I was shocked at how much work it was. It was going to laser scan the bridge, going to laser scan the steel beams, did a RTK collection of the control of the construction site. I mean, this is really kind of even pushing my limits. I talk to my friends and get their opinions about what to do. So it's engaging work. Also, it's kind of fast paced. I had a lady who had a school built on the wrong lot. They put the public school on the wrong parcel, and the attorney wanted it done like right now, figured out right now. And you have to kind of explain to these people, it'll go fast, but it's not going to be right now. And also because, no matter how many years I've done this, I always come across crazy situations like the bridge. And it makes you grow as a professional when you're dealing with crazy problems. So it's mind-twisting work. It's fast-paced for sure. So you have to have the schedule open to meet these demands from the attorneys. But you're definitely going to see yourself grow over the years, because if you do the same kind of surveys year after year, it becomes really boring and you don't learn new stuff. You're just doing, same thing. It's too much. So instead of doing the same thing over again, you need to be kind of pushing your boundaries, seeing how much you can figure out, how much you can learn. So it's good stuff. Now, let me ask you guys this. What do you think it takes to become an expert witness? What do y'all think it takes? Like, if you looked at your resume today, what would you want to see on your resume before you go out and start being an expert witness surveyor? And I'm gonna start calling on people.
Yeah, right.
Josh.
Some expertise on something,
Okay, some expertise on something. Okay, that's true. Because just because you're an expert doesn't mean you have to be like the best or the top dog at any particular subject. You probably know as just a regular surveyor more than the attorney or the judge does about land surveying, the land laws, whatever. So you don't have to be an expert with 50 years experience to become to do this. You just need some kind of knowledge that's going to help the case. Steve and Sean say experience. Yeah, absolutely. You're going to need some kind of experience because, I've seen quite a few college professors try to testify, and they just get completely overwhelmed because basic terms they've never dealt with. They've just been doing college work, and it's not the kind of experience they need. Now, how about some kind of basic credential? So if you're going to come in and you're going to set the standard for a land surveyor who did a work, I'm going to come in, I'm going to testify that Trent fell below the standard of care for an Arizona surveyor. What am I going to need in order to have some credibility when I, dump Trent in the toilet? What do you think? Jason, tell us, what do you think? What do you think I need in order to blow Trent's survey out of the water? And it's really simple. Rob, Josh, what do you think? Now, Michael, that is a good guess, but you're overthinking it. I need a professional land surveyor's license. I've had like real estate agents come in, try to testify against a land surveyor. What? A real estate agent is going to come and testify against a surveyor? That's not right. So
what I would say, Tony, is that, you not only need a license, but it's got to be unblemished. You can't have any actions against you because they'll eat you up. I have seen that happen, that the other party brought an expert in and he had a long list of violations with the board. I mean, the attorney didn't even check this guy out,
I like it.
So I came in, I'm president of the Land Surveying Society. I've been helping the investigator look into disciplinary actions as an expert to the licensing board. Those type of credentials are gold when they put you up on the stand.
Yep. If you're if you're a board member, if you're like a director of the state society, president, officer, somehow, that's all good stuff. You just want to be able to show that, first of all, you got the same credentials, you're a professional surveyor, start from there, and then education, experience. The courts love when you've got like some kind of like public office, like Michael was saying about being a state society member. All these things are good to have. Now, we don't want to watch this video. This is a little bit slow. Let's ask you 3 big questions. First one, what credentials are required? Got to have a professional surveyor license, at least one. And the more licenses you have, the better it is. It's kind of ridiculous because like I'm licensed in 29 states. Well, congratulations. It's costing you $25,000 a year to keep your licenses and all your CEUs. But, having the credentials is great. And I found personally that attorneys like dealing with other attorneys. So I have an attorney's license in Florida, and we can kind of talk the lingo together, but it's not required. You don't have to be an attorney to testify as a land surveyor. What attributes do great experts have that set them apart? This is a question for you guys. So to me, the worst attribute of an expert is a know-it-all. I'll just tell you how it goes. I called a guy in West Virginia, another surveyor, and he told me that if he was going to be my West Virginia surveyor, he wanted to testify. I couldn't testify. And then he said he was an amazing expert witness, and basically heaven opened and the sun shined down on him whenever he got into court. This is real stuff. He was telling me this, and I put it on speakerphone because the entire office here came over and listened to this guy. I mean, he thought he was like Jesus. Yeah, he thought it was Jesus Christ, West Virginia surveyor. We laughed so hard. It was great. I'm going to come back to that question for you guys. And then third, what does it cost to start a practice? Yeah, humility. I like that, Jason. A lot of humility. And so what does it cost to start a practice? Zero. Nothing. It takes you and a computer, and that's all it takes. Now, is other stuff good to have? Yeah, it is. And we'll talk about that too. But, you know, there's no crazy startup cost. All right, number one, what credentials are required to become an expert witness? Michael said having a CFEDS licensed on federal land would be good. I said having at least one land surveyor's license is important. Are there other kind of credentials that other than licensing you can have as a land surveyor? Like Trent, what did you read off for me? You had a whole bunch of random stuff on my bio. Any credentials in there?
Yeah, all your education, right?
Education.
Yeah.
Is an education required? Like, can you be a high school graduate, or can
Yeah,
you?
she hangs out there all day long.
1 second. I get him.
What's that, Bill?
He gets in there. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I have a mic on.
I got him.
I thought he had an answer for me.
I got him.
What do you think, David Crook? Education. Do you have to have a college education to testify? George says no. No, you don't.
No, you don't. You don't need just a surveyor's license.
Yeah. And I've testified against quite a few expert witnesses that have like 2-year community college degrees. The attorneys and the judges are a little bit leery of people with less education, even with lots of experience, but it's not required. Now, does education help? Like, does it boost your credibility? Does it boost your, a judge believing what you're going to say? I think so. My grandfather years ago, when he was testifying, he said, I hate those damn PhD surveyors because whenever they go to court, the judge listens to everything they say and just eats it up like, from your palm of your hand. Loves the, PhD surveyors. And I was probably 12 or 13 years old. But I remember thinking, I really need to get a PhD. It's kind of like one of the things, if you can't beat them, join them. And it works. I mean, when you come in, Dr. Nettleman comes to court, the judge or the jury listens. And that's a good thing. Piled higher and deeper. I agree. But not required. Now, what about certificates? I love getting certificates, like a UAS certificate, getting, I got a PIX 4D certification last month. It was kind of fun, kind of dry, but kind of fun. So just because you don't have a PhD, you can be out there getting all kinds of certifications, adding to your knowledge and getting better, because you've got to really be growing your resume every year. Whether you take a little course, whether you take a CEU, whether you go back to school, whatever you want to do, you've got to be growing your resume every year. It's got to be fresh. Now, another question. Does more years of experience equate to more knowledge automatically?
No.
No, I agree. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Great. Yeah, no, absolutely not. And I've met a lot of surveyors who practice for years and decades. They do the same mortgage surveys. They do the same construction surveys. They do the same boundary surveys year after year and just use the same principles every year, don't grow their knowledge, and it gets boring. I'd be bored to death. So when I went to college, I had summers off in the bachelor's program. And I promised myself that every summer I would go to a different state and I would do a different type of surveying every year. So I went to Florida and I did construction surveying. I went to Georgia and I did GIS data collection. I went to Texas, went to Alaska, all these places, and really built up a well-rounded early resume, which really helped out a lot. And also, I like this, Jason said, if they're testifying about a mineral survey and they've never done a mineral survey before, there could be a problem. Well, I keep these dossiers on all the experts in the country, surveying experts. So I've got your CV, I've got your, history, done a board complaint review on you, all this stuff to keep my back pocket. And I just got an email today from an attorney, and the other side in this case disclosed their expert. This expert in Florida has never taken a water boundary course, has never taken a college, course on it, never taken a CEU on it, never testified about a water boundary before, doesn't even list water boundaries in his list of qualifications in his resume. And now he's going to testify to a water boundary. This is perfect. I'm loving it. I said, don't dispute this guy. Let him in. You've also got, good luck with that guy. You've also got, licenses. You got your PLS license, maybe a GIS certificate. And the best kind of expert witness is one who does not do it just to be an expert witness. You have a general practice, you're doing your surveys, and as a bonus, I'll come in and testify in court on your behalf or on the behalf of my survey, but I'm not doing it just to become an expert to go into court every time. These attorneys, they're shocked when I say, before I can give you an expert opinion, I have to do a survey of your property. And the way I work is I pretend like you've just hired me, I'm your surveyor, and I do this, and then I decide, is the surveyor you're suing or defending met or exceeded my expectation, the industry expectations? And the attorney says, so you're going to do your own survey? And I think, I'm a freaking land surveyor. What do you like? No, I'm not gonna do a survey. And they're shocked, like I'm gonna show up at their property, take measurements, write a report. Like they're just expecting me to write a report and like from my computer at home. And like I'm the armchair surveyor, like I'll tell you all about other surveyor, but I won't do it myself. Come on. But they're shocked that I can actually do the survey in addition to writing reports or testifying. How about publications? Boy, the courts love being published. Whether you are a textbook author, whether you publish in peer-reviewed journals like SALIS or ASCE, or even if you just write some trade journal articles, POB, American Surveyor, all these things are, really simple trade journals. Do you have to be like a Nobel laureate in literature to write a trade journal article? No. The trade journals like XYHT, they are always desperate for new articles. You could write an article about your own business, how you found surveying, a least squares adjustment, whatever, finding boundary monuments. If you can give them a decently written 2,000 word article, they will most likely publish it. They're that desperate. So having a list of interesting articles that have been accepted by a trade journal, scientific journal, whatever is good. Now, I just recently took over Clark on Surveying last year, took over as the co-author to Brown's in Evidence and Procedure. And if you would see the stingy royalty payments from Wiley and LexisNexis, you would feel sick. Like you'd be like, wait a minute, Tony, you work for 20 cents an hour? Like, are you kidding me? But that's not the purpose of it, right? So, what's the real benefit of writing these textbooks? Somebody tell me. What do you think, Mark? Getting paid? Well, they pay, nothing. So that's not a benefit.
It shows that you are a learned person.
Exactly. Hey, Joe. Yeah, exactly. So it shows that you have been accepted to write the textbooks in the profession for all the college kids. And if you're educating the college kids and the attorneys and all these people, you must be good enough to testify in court. Now, another question. This one's for Joe too. Do you have to have been accepted by a prior court in order to testify? Or even better, here's a better question. Who decides if you're qualified to testify in a court case?
The judge.
The judge. So if you've had 0 prior testimony experience, can the judge still let you testify? Absolutely. It happens all the time. It's like the chicken and the egg. But what are the chances of you being disqualified as an expert if you have like 30 prior cases in the same state? He's not qualified. What do you mean? Here's 30 cases from the past 10 years in Florida. What's the judge gonna say to that? Motion denied. So the more cases you've qualified in, the harder it is for opposing counsel to get you disqualified. How about media and press coverage? Maybe 10 years ago, there would be like newspaper, radio interviews. I've had a couple of short interviews with Walt on different cases on the local news. But today, it's really podcast, webcast, video blogs. All of those things are great coverage. And how much money and effort does it take to make a podcast or to be interviewed? Nothing. It's free publicity. But what's the downside to publishing a bunch of stuff online, whether it's articles or whatever else? What do you think, Joe? What's the
They can
downside?
bring it up in court against you.
Exactly. Exactly. So you want to be kind of generic, don't be too bland, but don't give specific opinions either, because it can and will be used against you in the court of law. So
It's happened to me. They brought the whole sheet of articles I had written and tried to use them against me.
yes, yep. And a lot of attorneys are lazy. They don't do the research. They don't spend a lot of time. But some attorneys, they're sly. I mean, they do they have some law clerks, they got some paralegals, and they're looking for dirt on you, and they want to find every article. I had a attorney earlier this year ask me for every article, publication, podcast, video I've done in the past 10 years. I was like, this is amazing. I want to do this. I charged him like $15,000 for all that stuff. I mean, it took us like, I don't know how long it took, but it was a long time to put all that together. And then all the stuff I just printed, I couldn't give him like, 8 3-ring binders of papers. It was like 6,000 pages of stuff or something stupid. And he had to pay it because he asked for all of it. And I emailed and said, are you sure you want all this? And they went through the attorney and said, yeah, he wants it. He's demanding it. I said, okay, I'll give it to him. So like 4 people spent a whole week compiling all this stuff and sent it to him. And the FedEx bill was like $800. It was funny. So that's one of the situations where, what do they say? You should be careful what you wish for. But he got it. The paper tsunami.
Yeah, I was gonna say Schroeder brings up a good point too about the social media, right? So
yeah,
good,
and
clean professional.
That's a good point too. And I post a lot of like news articles and stuff on the NLC Prep Facebook page. I post some funny things on Instagram sometimes, but I don't have enough care or love for social media to post anything personally, which is good. But yeah, that's really dangerous. I was had someone apply for a job this year, and she had some pictures of her friends like super drunk at the club, or it was a really funny, series of pictures. But my wife said, I don't think she's going to quite qualify, and canned her application. All right, number 2. What attributes do great experts have that set them apart? So let me ask you guys this. what is the most important attribute or personality trait, or I'm trying to get, you tell me what makes a great expert witness?
The ability to communicate your position.
That is great. The ability to communicate is really key. A lot of land surveyors are very good technicians, pretty bad business people, but on the scale of like introvert to extrovert, most are introverts. They like to, they're kind of cool with their team and their colleagues, but it's tough explaining things. Also, I think the most important thing about an expert is you have to be a great teacher. You have to have the heart of a teacher, and you have to enjoy explaining. Like, I did a survey. Great. Well, why is my boundary correct and the other expert's boundary is not? Well, let me tell you all about original surveys. Let me tell you about the priority of calls. Let me explain junior senior rights. And you have to explain it in such a simple, such a simple way that a non-surveyor can understand it. Judges, sometimes explaining an angle blows their minds. Like, how can an angle be in both directions? Like 20 degrees northeast and 20 degrees southwest. I mean, it just blows their minds. So you got to start from the basics, like baby steps, and explain how you did something and why you did it. Going into least squares adjustment, it's just not going to happen. Don't even try. Also, meeting deadlines. When you tell a client you're going to get them a survey in 30 days, it better be done in 20 days, because they're nervous, they're stressed out, they're worried about their case or their dispute. I went to Houston last month to do a survey, and I'm doing a survey for this doctor, very high profile guy. And he says, I'm too busy, but I'm going to send my mother to meet you. She's about 80 years old. I said, I love meeting clients. Send her out here. Yeah, I'd love to have her out for the day to show her what I'm doing. He says, don't say that until you met her. So, and she was so agitated about what is going to be the boundary. And she wanted to know, like right then, like today, she wanted to know the boundary. Well, I said, let me explain the 3 steps of a land survey. And the third step is the analysis. It takes about 30 days. Well, within 24 hours, she was calling again. Do you know my boundary? So you got to be able to meet deadlines. Second, a flexible schedule. Now, this is why I love having the test prep business and the consulting, because when consulting is a little bit slow, I can make a bunch of test prep material on a new state. But when things are fast, the test prep business kind of runs itself with my team members, and I can go do the consulting, the surveys, and then wait for the next quiet period. But usually, if an attorney emails me and it takes me longer than 1 hour to get back to them, I think that's too long, because they want things now. And when I finish a case, when I finish a dispute, what I want the attorney to say in his Google review, if he ever left one, was, you were really expensive, but you were worth it. And one of the attorneys a couple of years ago said just that. He said, you were extremely expensive, but you were worth it. Now, they may have spent $250,000 on my bill over about a year or two, but they ended up saving their like $14 million office building. That's all they wanted. They wanted to protect their office building, and they got it, and they moved on and were happy. So you've got to be able to get back to these attorneys pretty quickly and help them on their time schedule, which sometimes is not realistic. So you have to tell them that you can't do a survey in 3 days, but getting all their stuff together in 30 days is a pretty reasonable estimate. Next, oral and written communication. I don't think I ever took a college course that prepared me to write a expert report, because you have to put a lot of really complex principles and information and data, but you have to write it so the judge will actually understand it. And a lot of attorneys, they want long reports, all the data, all the facts. But if you give a judge or a jury a 25-page report, their eyes are going to glaze over. So my rule is like 10 pages max. And if you've got a big, hairy problem, to get all of your written data, field data, analysis, and conclusions in a 10-page report, it's tough. Now, let me ask you another question. This one's for George Linsmith. How do you write? What is the secret to writing a great expert report?
You have to write it at a level, I would say maybe 5th grade levels, so that it's understandable by everybody.
Now, as insulting as that sounds, you do have to write it very simply, but that's not the secret. The secret is you have to edit the report, and then edit the report, and then edit the report again, and then have 3 other people edit the report too. So when I write a report, can you provide a sample of a report? I don't know. Let me think about that, Danny. Have Trent email me and let me see if I can find an older one, because a lot of the ones are still going on, but maybe I can find you a sample. Actually, I can give you a sample, because I had to write a sample report for my Texas LSLS application. But I was watching an interview years ago by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late Supreme Court Justice. And they said, how do you write these amazing Supreme Court, opinions? She said, I edit this thing like 50 times. By the time I finish editing, I want to tear the thing in 2 and, light it on fire. Well, yes, I write the report, I edit it twice. My wife reads it, my paralegal reads it, my customer service rep reads it. So everybody reads this thing, because when you send a report to an attorney for them to edit, it makes you look dumb when there's spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, stuff like that. Another thing is good organization. If you ask me to give you the survey data from a case I had 10 years ago, I could give it to you in 30 seconds. I've got a system where all of the clients get a unique number. There's a file folder template I use for every client. So it's very organized. And this is quite different from Walt. If y'all went to Walt's house, y'all be scared for your life. He probably has 100,000 loose pages on his floors. You can't even see his floors. His floors are covered by papers. And I was over there at his house a few months ago. He looked down at his floor. He picked up my mother's report card from like 1955. That's how much stuff he has in his house. I mean, it would scare you. I told him that when he dies, I'm going to give him a Viking funeral where I light a match and I torch his entire house for the insurance money, and then keep him inside as a bonus, automatic cremation. But it's horrible because, Walt has done hundreds of these case disputes, and I would love to read his reports, but where are they? Did he keep a copy? Where are all these experts reports he wrote over the years? He has so many slide decks. He's done presentations on every conceivable subject: business, legal, surveying, antique surveying. Where are they? They're gone, because there's 100,000 individual overhead slides at his house, and no one knows what presentation goes with what. It's just everywhere. So, so I mean, the amount of knowledge and information that was lost by he calls it being floorganized, where he can walk anywhere on his floor and pick up anything he wants at any given time. But, when you're, dead, you can't explain, what your system is to anybody. It's just chaos. So he's on one side and I'm on the way other, and maybe you guys are in the middle somewhere. Joe, you do a lot of expert witness cases. How do you organize your stuff?
Well, I have a funny story before I answer that.
Oh, no.
Some of you know that I used to teach college, and I run into my students periodically. Some of them are already retired. And the first question some of them ask is your office the way it used to be when you taught college? Because it looked a little bit like Walt's.
Oh, no.
But the thing that amazed them is they would come in, 2 years after they took my course, and I'd say, I didn't know if there's a chance you had saved my final. And I would walk over to a pile and pull the thing right out because I knew where it was. So that was my difference with Walt. Anyway, I realized as my career developed, I couldn't do that. So I do have, well, of course, I started when filing was paper. So I had a paper filing system, but I moved on to a computer-based filing system that is pretty organized. First thing you do is you start a folder, and you have one subfolder for all your admin stuff. You have another folder for all the data you're collecting, another folder for all the correspondence you have with anybody on Earth, but those are arranged into subfolders. But I won't go into more detail than that. I'm sure you're going to do that.
That's great. And Joe is a reformed floor organizer. It sounds like he's accepted that this doesn't work, and it takes a lot of introspection to recognize you're doing something wrong and fix it. So good for you, Joe. That's good to hear. How about no baggage? You don't have any board complaints. You don't have any. If you consistently lose cases, you're probably not going to get more cases. There's a win some, lose some mentality. There's the facts, there's the law, there's the attorney, huge part. But if you're consistently underperforming as an expert, the attorneys are going to know. But the important thing is, no board complaints, and no reprimands or other things on your record, which is really important. And that's kind of like a basic starting point, because if you have board complaints and the opposing counsel finds them, they're going to tear you up. It's going to be a bad, you're going to want to leave, because they're going to just tear you up. But on the other hand, you've also got to be pretty thick-skinned, because you will get insulted as an expert witness. I had someone years ago, this was one of my first cases I testified. He kept calling me the golden rule surveyor. Oh, he does everything right. He lives by the golden rule. What a little, golden rule, golden rule. And I kept thinking, is this an insult or is this a compliment? Because when you do everything by the book, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But what the opposing counsel was trying to show was that I did everything by the book, and it wasn't how the real professionals do it. Like the real professionals shoot from the hip, and the college professor comes in and is the golden rule. But when you can actually show you do your surveying, you do it in the field and you do it right, then that's a different thing. Yeah, what's up, Michael?
Yeah, on several of my first cases, I had 3 hours of tormenting examination about instrument calibration, which had nothing to, we couldn't even get to the survey before they wanted to know how I calibrated in that days my chains and our instruments and when I've been to the baseline and why that was important. And it was just let's see if we can get the surveyor to melt down, because they knew that if they got that reaction that you were frustrated. So someone said earlier, keeping your cool, but there can be some rabbit trail thing that about your credentials in the beginning that is really difficult. And then
yeah, absolutely.
If you can get by that and get accepted, then, you're there for the show, for
downhill from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And I had an attorney recently who asked me the same 10 questions, 5 or 10 times. And the attorney I was working with got angry. I said, don't get angry. Let them ask the same questions. This is perfect. We're billing hourly. We're gonna get rich. They can talk for, days if they want to. Let them ask the same 10 questions. And what I do is I like to write out all my questions and answers, potential questions and answers ahead of time. So I'm really consistently, I know what I want to say. And if I write the question from the attorney's perspective, I can think about the issue and kind of let it marinate in my brain and come up with a nice crisp answer. Well, I can say the same crisp answer 100 times. And we were there for hours answering the same questions. And I was thinking, oh, what am I going to, what are we going to do? Just do the same thing over and over again? But I'm not going to get angry. I'm loving it. This is the best expert witness gig ever because they're not threatening me. I'm not in danger of getting, made to be an idiot or something. It's just the same 10 simple questions. So
You ever had the examination of how come your field tablets, your field notes have got a crossed out number? Oh my God.
no, I never heard that, but it sounds like a
Yeah.
kind of like the crucifixion.
Yeah, how come this distance is crossed out? It's not erased, and then you have a different number written above it, and you have to explain that.
That's funny. But those are great questions because they're simple questions you can answer. There's no threat to saying the wrong thing. It's just a simple explanation. And what I've learned is the louder someone gets when they're questioning me, the quieter I should get. Or the faster they're talking, the slower I should talk. And you kind of have to yin and yang the tempo, because if you let them get you talking fast, you're going to say things you regret. So if they start going faster, you need to automatically start talking slower and kind of offset that fast tempo, because attorneys are just trying to get you riled up. That's it. It's a game. All right. Number 3, what does it cost to get started? Already said this, 0, nothing. But what documents should you have before you get started? So anyone who's testified before, anyone who wants to testify, what do you think is the first document you should put in front of an attorney or a landowner? And this is not just for expert witnesses, it's for surveyors as well. So you're doing a survey.
Yeah. Contract.
Go ahead. Contract. David Crook says your license. That's a good thing too if you want to show them your surveyor's license, but give them a contract because it eliminates ambiguity. They know what they're expected to do. They know what you're expected to do, and you give them a contract. And it says, I'm going to be your expert witness land surveyor. It's going to cost you $500 an hour. You need to pay a retainer up front. And this is the stuff I'm going to do for you. Just basic stuff. Now, I started with a 1-page contract. Today, I think I have like a 5-page contract because there was just crazy stuff that comes up. They need to, you need to set some standards. Oh, it's only 4 pages. So, you have this agreement, has fees, qualifications, expenses, terms of engagement. If you don't pay your bill, I will not be your expert witness. That's what it says. You have 30 days to pay, then interest starts. And if you're still past due at 90 days, I'm no longer your expert witness. Yeah, exactly. And another thing that I wrote recently, this is from my business coach, which I love, is my service level agreement. Y'all can see this, right?
Yes. Yep. You're doing good.
So, what are my expectations, or what are your expectations? I'm going to call or email you within 1 business day, usually sooner. I'm going to read all your documents. I am going to give you an extensive library of land surveying information. And I am going to do whatever it takes to do a good job. This is all good. This is all fair. Now, what about the client? The client's expectations is to give me all the documents in the case that are relevant, to pay your bill on time, to give me adequate notice of different things. I had an attorney say, your deposition is scheduled for tomorrow. No, it's not. No, it's not. And also to keep me up to date on the case. So, and I give this to the clients when they first sign on. I say, you need to sign this, because you're not going to come to me and cry wolf. But when I set the expectation and you complain about it, we have to do a deposition tomorrow. No, we don't. Look at your service level agreement, 7 days. So setting expectations is really key. Who here enjoys accounting? Anybody here love numbers, accounting?
I do. I do my wife's accounting in my other business.
You're a sick person, you know that?
Yes,
Yeah.
on many levels, you don't know.
Yeah. You need to have a lawyer draft your contract, read it over. You need to have an accountant or a bookkeeper do your books. I mean, you have to run a land surveying business. You don't invoice clients 2 years later. You got to have an amazing CV. Hire someone who writes CVs, a resume, and have them do it for you. And I think the biggest thing of all is a great website, because I get so much traffic from my Nettleman website for new clients. So these are all good suggestions. They're not required. You've got your CV. We won't go into that too much because y'all can figure out how to do it. Got your contract. It basically says, I'm going to be your expert witness and you're going to pay me and we'll have a good time. If you want to become a next level expert witness, look up SEEK, S-E-A-K, SEEK Experts. I've taken a few of their seminars over the years. They're a little basic, but it's good stuff. And I took an 8-hour class last year, and the teacher said, whatever you're charging, go out today and charge more. And I thought I was charging too much, but I did it. I raised my prices $100 an hour. Do you know how many people have complained about that new rate? Zero. The attorneys think you're more reliable, a better expert if you charge more. If you charge too little, they wonder what you're doing wrong. Like, why are you the cheap expert? No, they want the expensive expert, and I'll give it to them. So guys, let's take a 10-minute break, and we're going to come back at 8:10 Eastern time. So take a 10-minute break, get up, walk around. The mind can only absorb what the butt can endure. So stand up, walk around. We'll come back in 10 minutes and we'll talk deposition trial tips and tricks.
Hey, Trent, I have a question.
Go for it.
Can we republish some of your articles from the Nevada magazine
Yes, sir.
or our Georgia magazine?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All Chrissy asks is we just, cite the originally
okay.
published as. That's
Yeah.
all. Yep.
Okay. That'll work.
And you can send me an email. I'll send you all the Word docs, and that way
Okay.
you can mess with the formatting and all that kind of stuff. But yep,
All right.
I'll send you whatever you want. And then I've posted a lot of the ones that I've just recently published on the website as well, on the mentoring site.
Okay, perfect.
So there's a bunch of
Yeah,
them.
I got volunteered at the summer conference
Cool.
for, I think, 3 committees now.
Nice. It's perfect. It's good.
Yeah.
I got your email, Dr. Piva. I just haven't, I was gone all weekend, so I haven't responded to you yet, but I do have that one.
I figured it out at the start of the hour.
Oh, no worries. I was busy.
Hey, Trent, how does this microphone sound?
That one sounds really good, Schroeder.
Okay, yeah, it's first time. So yeah, we're on for Wednesday, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, that one sounds good. What's Wednesday?
Geoholics interview with me.
Oh,
And
okay, cool.
sick on many levels.
I forgot about that. Yeah, no, that one.
Yeah.
This one
Yeah.
sounds. This one sounds
It
really
should
good.
be good. It should be good.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. Lots of bear stories. Hey, Josh, I have I'm working on like 4 or 5 more articles too. So I'll publish a couple more in the August one, and then you can have those too. But I've been taking a lot of the either from Mentoring Mondays and or Geoholics podcast, and then turning all those into different articles. So
Yeah, I saw that today when I was looking at stuff.
Okay.
Just giving me some good ideas for what direction we need to start going.
Yeah, it's been working out well. The friend of mine, she's loves to write, and so she goes through and takes the audio and video files and compiles stuff, and then she just sends me kind of the Word doc, and then I'll clean them up and add the pictures and add things to just make them look good, but and getting ready to publish. But
So here's a question for people in other states while we're waiting.
Yeah.
On our break, do licensing boards in your state hire professional land surveyors to help their licensing investigator when there's complaints against land surveyors? I know our state does, because our investigators, I mean, they cover everything from hairdressers to, speech pathologists to surveyors. So they don't have any technical expertise. So it's along the same lines as expert witness.
Yep.
It's very similar, although you're providing, the report to the licensing investigator, and it's generally on really the basis of the complaints that come in.
so I know Nevada, we do, because actually a friend of mine does some of that. We have our own investigator, and then if they want some outside help, they do hire some LSs for kind of outside opinions. But
Yeah, in Missouri as well as Kansas, I happen to sit on the border between the two states. They have investigators who are employees of either the board or whatever the overarching division is, but generally they're like retired police detectives. So they're good at investigating different kinds of things. And what each board does is hire, and they kind of engage them for longer periods so they can work on more than one case at a time. Surveyors who are well known, sometimes they're retired board members, it varies, to do the actual technical evaluation if there's a complaint that requires that.
California has one LS, they call him a registrar, senior registrar, and he's kind of the in-house person for reviewing cases, but they also rely on technical experts, which are land surveyors, to do additional case review and write reports and such.
Georgia has 2 registered board members that the investigators kind of present everything to them and they hash it out in general. At least right now, we're pushing legislation to create just a board with 5 surveyors on it, just for surveying and get away from the engineers.
really,
Yeah.
That's
how's that going?
Surprisingly, the engineers are all for it because we're dragging them down in their mind. But the board currently has 5 engineers and 2 surveyors, so we really don't get a fair shake on a whole lot. So we came up with a proposal to increase all of our renewals and have our own separate board, separate of the engineers. And we've gotten some traction, which surprised me.
Wow. Yeah, we have similar setup where we have 2 LSs. Our chairman is actually an LS. The last we've kind of alternated every few years. We have the chairman as an LS.
So that's interesting. In Alaska, the LS board members can't see anything, you know, even the basis of the complaint, because they have to act basically on the report of the investigator. So they can't have prior knowledge. They have to be sort of like a judge rather than involved with doing the investigation themselves.
Yeah, our society's taken an active role in, as things are brought up, a group from our regulatory group kind of does a write-up in the report to submit to the state board.
Nice.
That seems to carry a little bit more weight versus, I think we're getting better, at least fair assessments that way versus just a non-knowledgeable person taking a landowner's complaint and running with it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Had your 10-minute break, feel better, got a little blood flowing. Now, the first hour we ran today was just kind of the intro to the 8-hour course. But for the second hour here, I sort of had to decide, like, you know, what was the most important topic? If I had to pick one, what would I give you guys to get you started? And I think it is the tips and tricks for trials and depositions. Because I just had another land surveyor who I was working with. He was getting called in a deposition, a nervous wreck before. I mean, he was really worried. So, well, what do I do? How do I do? So I ran this hour of presentation for him one-on-one, and I did a Q&A, like test him out. And he has like verbal diarrhea. He just wants to tell everything, you know. And I said, just simply yes or no. Start with a yes or no. Is your name John Smith? Yes. That's it. Don't tell us about, you know, what you got in high school chemistry. We don't need your entire life story, you know, just simple. And we'll run through this and we'll save a little time for after here to ask questions too. But I feel like this is going to benefit you guys the most. So let's go through this and we'll come for questions afterwards. So when you're getting ready for a trial or deposition as an expert or whoever, you got to be prepared, because it's amazing. You know, you spend 2 hours in deposition. Well, you just spent 3 months looking at the deeds, collecting the field data, analyzing the evidence. You've got to condense all of this stuff in like 2 hours of time. And the scary part is you could have done this 5 years ago. You know, I've had a trial in Texas. It's been postponed 5 times, and each time it's been a 6-month postponement. 6, 12, 24. It's been like 3.5 years. This thing's been going on. I have not been to the property in 2 years. So what am I going to do before my trial this month? I am going to read every single page from the attorney I'm working with, from the opposing attorney, from my land survey. I'm going to read everything all over again, because when you stumble during a deposition or trial, it makes you look unqualified, unprepared. And oftentimes when you read through your stuff, it all refreshes your memory. But I've seen experts who come in after years of not seeing the file. They don't remember anything. No idea. Why are we even here if you don't remember what you're doing? So step 1, be prepared. Step 2, document everything. Document the time you've spent, document your time and expenses. I was at a doctor's office years ago, and every time the doctor got a page of my medical history, he initialed it. Why? Because now he can prove that he physically looked at this and at least sort of read it if he's ever sued years later. Dr. Johnson, are you sure you read the x-ray of the patient? Well, it's been 10 years, so I'm not sure of anything, but look, there's my initial, and my standard business practice is to initial every document I've read. Now, I tried this. I'm too impatient. I'm just reading. And also, I read a lot of my stuff on the computer or on my iPad, because every page of a case, every page of a survey is digitized. So I can't quite do this, but think about, how are you going to make sure that you've documented what you've done? It's a little scary, because I just wrote a report of this boundary survey in Houston, and there are some facts that are in my favor for what I accept as the boundary, and there are some other facts that work against me. There's 2 sets of monuments. Now, there's a really old set of monument, like a pipe, and then there's new stuff, rebar, and I chose the pipe because it's older. Now, could I be wrong? Sure, I could. And I've just written 12 pages explaining why I chose the pipes. So if you're going to document things, you better make sure you can defend it. Third, there is a certain point where you have to accept that not all the evidence works in your favor. When you go to law school, these dumb first-year law students, they will just ignore the facts that don't work in their favor. They'll try to dismiss them or ignore them, or not even mention them in the legal briefs. But if you have something that doesn't work in your favor, you got to address it. So you, as the land surveyor, are not working for the attorney. You are working for the public of the state, and you're doing the best survey you can. So if you come across evidence that contradicts your opinion of the boundary, of the survey, whatever, you've got to handle it head on. And simply ignoring facts is going to make you look like a hired gun. If the surveyor, if you're testifying against a fellow surveyor, and the surveyor has a calibration certificate for his total station, but you say his measurements were wrong, you better explain what the calibration certificate means in the grand scheme of things, because simply ignoring evidence makes you look sleazy. Show up and tell the truth. There is no land survey, no case, no anything that all of the facts work in your favor. It's a preponderance of the evidence. So don't expect to, don't expect every fact to be in your favor. And if you address them head on, then it makes you look more honest than just ignoring. Also, there is absolutely no place for an egotist in the courtroom, in the world, in life, whatever. If you come in as the land surveyor, it makes you look ridiculous. I'm having to write an expert report against this guy in Florida, and his name is, John Smith, and it says on every survey plat, the land surveyor. Well, the land surveyor chose not to use the section corners in the vicinity, and he chose to use his own control, which he set years before instead. So he basically found an adequate part legal description using no public land system evidence. But on his own plat, it says the land surveyor. And my assistant said, this guy is the biggest moron. It was funny. So when you tell people that you are a Alaska land survey expert and you've never been to Alaska before, this is stuff that makes you look ridiculous. Now, if you're that, you know, if you've worked for the BLM for 20 years, you have the experience, tell people. That's all good stuff. But if you've never been in a public land state in your life and you're the public land surveyor, you've got some things you're going to defend against. Also, you've got to be able to have a cool, calm demeanor. When everybody else in the room is getting agitated, is raising their voice, is talking fast, you need a real slow, you know, late night radio DJ voice to, you know, to calm everybody down. Because if you're the coolest head in the whole room, what does that make you look like? More credentials or less? More in control or less? What do you think, Joshua? You're muted. You're still muted.
Hear that? There you go. When you hit mute, it mutes it. There you go. It makes it, to me, it makes you look as more of an expert and more believable because you're in control. You're not.
Been there, exactly. Been there, done that. And if you want to look like a real expert, let me play this game with you, Joshua. Unmute your mic and let's play a little game. So Joshua, what's your experience in land surveying?
28 years in meets and bounds states.
Oh, that's quite a license you have, a license, a PLS license.
Not really, because I'm not licensed.
Did I ask you a question?
No, correct.
Gotcha.
Yep.
That's what I played with my friend last month. I give him a statement. Oh,
let me respond.
There's that blue line there. And people cannot handle silence. If I put you in a room and it was silent, you'd make some noise somehow. So if I make, you know, if it's quiet in the room, you're going to say something. And that's what the attorney wants. He'll just give a real blanket statement and see where you go with it. And after about 30 minutes coaching my friend surveyor, he was like, he figured it out, like he was having a good time. And he did so well in his first deposition. The attorney said, "Did Dr. Nettleman talk to you about testifying as an expert?" He says, "Yes." It was funny. So you've got to be able, first of all, to speak to a layman. You need to be able to calmly and slowly explain, what is a land survey? Why do I need a survey? Why is the public land system corner more important than a regular property corner? These are all dumb questions to surveyors. Of course, we know the public land system is like the control for the entire state, but a judge doesn't know that. Sometimes an attorney certainly doesn't. So you have to be able to tune your argument to the audience. Also, you have to be able to teach them and not, what do they call it, mansplain it. You know, let me tell you about all this stuff here, you know, survey instruments, and I'm a genius, so let me talk all about it. No, you want to be able to calmly and completely explain a difficult concept using simple words and have fun doing it. You know, whenever I'm talking about priority of calls, I'm smiling. I'm having a great time. This is really interesting stuff to me. And if you're smiling and enjoying it while you're doing it, everybody else sees how much you enjoy it. They're like, this guy really doesn't just do this for a living. He really enjoys like this kind of discussion. So a lot of credibility. I tell people, your job is not to be the lawyer and advocate. Your job is to be the teacher and bring the gift of land surveying to everybody in the courtroom. And if you do it so well, then one time I had a judge stop me when I was testifying. He said, "Wait a minute, I want to call my wife because she loves history and she's going to want to hear this." So we recessed for 30 minutes and the judge's wife came down and listened to the history of the land system in this state. And it was a, you know, kind of like a a history preservation, 1 hour show instead of an angry court case. So it was much more non-adversarial and fun than it was like, this is my opinion and you better accept it, otherwise you're, go to hell. And you also have to appreciate that some simple terms like an angle or a meet and bound or a riparian allocation, these terms the judge and the jury may never have heard in their life. And it's like, what is an angle? That's a tough question to answer. Why are angles important in the boundary survey? Simple questions you have to give to these people in order to lay a foundation. But please do not volunteer information. Now, if I feel like I've got an opening, I'll say something a little snarky, maybe. Why? I had an attorney ask me, why did this dispute occur? I said it occurred because you have a negligent land surveyor you hired, and he created a really negligent, poorly done survey, which has caused this whole thing. And that's how the deposition, he just quit. The attorney stopped it right there and we were finished. He didn't want to hear anything else. But usually you want to give simple answers, short answers. Joshua, are you a licensed land surveyor?
No.
Done. Easy. One word. If you can answer it yes or no, do it. And once you get to be more experienced, maybe you'll go for those like, kind of jabs or something if you got some good information. But if you're kind of just getting into this, make it simple. And a lot of times I answer yes or no. Did you perform a survey for Mrs. Smith? Yes. Next question. When did you do the survey? June 2020. See how fast this goes? I mean, it's just back and forth. This is the rhythm. And when you get that rhythm, you don't want to answer too fast. Otherwise, it sounds like you didn't answer the question. You don't want to answer too slow because it seems like you're trying to make up an answer, like you're lying or something. So a nice, easy rhythm. Mr. Paiva, when were you first licensed?
1974.
And in 1974, what job did you hold?
I was a principal in my firm and also an adjunct at the University of Missouri.
See, guys, nice, cool rhythm. You get this rhythm going. It feels good, right? You're not going super fast or super slow. And Joe knows what he's doing. Also, if you guys want to watch this video, y'all can watch it from the PowerPoint deck, I'm pretty certain. But this guy talks about, a pro has a contract, gets paid a retainer up front before he shows up to the deposition or trial. Because if the deposition doesn't go the client's way, if the trial gets canceled because of a technicality, who knows what could happen. But you want to get paid upfront some money, and you want to have a contract because you never want to bring your client to collection, but that's always a good threat. Hey, you need to pay your bill, otherwise it's going to get, go to collections. They pay their bill. Now, how much should you get up front? Michael, I know you do this quite a bit. How much do you get paid up front?
It's been a while since I've done an expert witness, but I think it was in the level of 20 hours at the rate for expert witness, which is somewhere around $400 or $500. I can't remember.
Okay,
Last
so
time I
20
did.
hours up front, that's a pretty good chunk. What about you, Joe? How much do you get up front? You're muted.
Sorry about that. I learned the hard way of charging too little. I knew to charge more, but my first job, I only charged 125. And currently I charge 475.
Okay, Do you get 10 hours up front, or how much do you get paid up front for a retainer?
It depends. If it's somebody I've worked with before, because it's the attorney that I hold responsible, I might not charge anything, but most of the time I'll ask for a reasonable amount of hours to do the preliminary research, because very often they want to know if I can help them. And I'll say, well, I need to do some research before, it's not enough to have a 15-minute conversation sometimes. And so I'll ask for that up front.
Okay, fair enough. If I had one lesson to bring to this entire class, it would be to build a system and to run the system every time. So the way I work is I have a 3-step process. The initial review is a 10-minute phone call. Tell me your story, 10-minute call. Can I help you? Yes or no? If I say yes, then you go to stage 2. Stage 2 is an initial review. I spend 3 hours looking at your stuff. It costs you $2,000 to do it. And we have another phone call. So you do the first phone call, you pay $2,000 to look at your stuff. Second phone call, can I still help you? Yes or no? Initial review is over. Now you get a full expert contract. 10 hours up front, $475 an hour, sign the contract. Everybody gets treated the same every time. If you build a good enough system, you can have other people do it for you. I have a paralegal, and the paralegal runs all the paperwork, sends the invoice, sends the contract, sets up the meetings, everything. You say, Nate is my paralegal, and he is amazing. I can probably handle twice as many cases with Nate in the background. And if you want to run a successful business, whether it's expert witness or surveying, or you want to make, pancakes for a living, you've got to have the systems in place. And the systems you put in place have got to be documented. So if I say, let me find, just for kicks, let me find one of these systems here, and I'll show you how this works. So how do you produce a discovery binder? Well, you review all the files in Dropbox. You make 4-inch binders. You print Dymo labels, which says discovery binder, case name, produced to whatever attorney. You make a set of tabs, and all of the tabs have, like, correspondence, survey documents. So everything gets done the exact same way every time. So no matter which one of my paralegals is making the binder today, I know I'm going to get the binder that looks just how I like it. And I tell them, what does the case look like? What does the cover look like? I've got a template for the cover, front cover down here. And I even show them how I want my binder to look like. So I exactly how I want things every time, because consistency is what makes a real business work. And I show them, when it's finished, it better look like this, with the produced to, the case name, all this stuff. So I hate to go off on a tangent on that, but our motto here is, let me see if I can show you guys this. I don't know if you can read this, but up here it says, on time, every time, exactly as promised. And if it's not on time, every time, exactly how I like it, then someone's going to be in big trouble. So with that side note, let's keep going. One of the most dangerous questions about you can get as an expert witness is why? Why did you accept the pipe instead of accepting the rebar? Why did you allocate the riparian boundary using the colonial method and not using the proportionate shoreline method? Why? Well, if you ask me a why question, I could probably spend 2 hours telling you all about it. But you got to come up with a crisp, short answer. Mr. Linsmith, why did you accept the pipes instead of the iron rebar? Make something up. And you're muted.
Working
You're
on
still
that.
muted. There you
Okay.
go.
Because the pipe was older than the other monuments and probably was set based on better monumentation that was done historically in the past. And it seemed to fit the meets and bounds description that I was working with.
Great answer. The pipe fit well with other evidence. The pipe was older in time, which means it was closer to the date of original survey. And the pipe had certain markings on it. Who knows what I'm going to say? But hey, 3 bullet points in 30 seconds. George gets an A+. Short answers to answer big questions. Do not assert that you are the land surveyor because it makes you look ridiculous. And if you're in doubt, tell them you're in doubt. You know, see, I don't know 100% the pipe is the true boundary, but based on the totality of the evidence, my 3 reasons, the pipe is better than the rebar. And just tell them the truth. You know, you cannot go back in time and look over the shoulder of the surveyor who set this in 1965. You can't. You can't go back in time. But you can use land surveying principles and common sense to make an educated professional opinion. And that's all it is. There's no 100% in this game. This is probably one of the biggest things. Do not become adversarial with the other attorney. You are not an attorney. You're not here to advocate for, you know, who's on this, or, you know, who's in court today. All you're here to do is to be a third party, non-adversarial surveyor who just reports the facts and then uses the facts to come up with his expert opinions. That's it. I was in a trial in Orange County in Orlando a few years ago, and the attorney I was working with was an expert at riling up witnesses. So he would slowly talk louder for every question. What's your name? What's your birthday? Why are you here today? And he got this other land surveyor expert so riled up. I mean, the other expert was screaming at the top of his lungs after 15 minutes, just screaming, banging on the table. I mean, just going crazy. And when you see a 60-year-old man up there standing on 2 feet, screaming, pounding on the table, what do you think? This person's out of his freaking mind. Are you going to accept this guy, any of his opinions? No. And that's exactly what the judge did. He said, you know, so-and-so expert was completely not credible. And why? Probably because the other expert was screaming at the top of his lungs. Now, I don't really care who wins or loses their boundary dispute, their lawsuit, whatever. All my job is to do at this deposition or trial is to explain what I did and why I did it. That's it. And I tell the same story again and again. How do you do a survey? I start with the record research. This is what I did for the record research. I bought a title report, did my own research. Next, I took the record research and I went to the field and I searched for all of the field evidence of these property deeds and easements. Then step 3, I used land surveying principles to analyze the collected data, just tell the same story, you know, dispute after dispute. But did I ever say who I wanted to win this case? Did I ever talk about who I liked more or liked less? No, none of that stuff. I'm just reporting the objective facts, and whatever the judge wants to do with the facts and the surveying principles, he can do with them. I've done the best I can, and now it's up to God. And you can't, you know, get into these arguments with attorneys. Otherwise, you seem like you're like a quasi attorney because you're advocating for the people who paid you, which makes you look even worse. I said before, you know, keep a good cadence. Don't wait too long. Don't answer too quickly. But this is my biggest pet peeve. Surveyors who come in, they want to be professionals and experts. What do they wear to court? Walmart Wolverine boots and blue jeans. What do you mean? Well, this is what I wear every day to the field. And since I wear it every day to the field, I'm going to wear it to court too. What does that judge think of you when you walk in wearing blue jeans and Wolverine boots to courtroom? He thinks you're a country bumpkin who has never been in court before, because if you had been, you would have been thrown out, and you don't respect him, which is a horrible thing to think. You know, you come in, you disrespect the judge, he is immediately turned off to what you have to say, completely turned off. So, David Crook, what do you think you should wear? Don't wear a hat. Yeah, thank God. David Crook, what do you think you should wear to court?
You should wear a suit and tie.
A suit and tie. I mean, when I do my senior project presentations with the kids, they all have to wear suit and ties. But I don't have a suit and tie. Well, buy a suit and tie, man. There's a Men's Warehouse down the road, 10 minutes. Go to the Men's Warehouse, buy a $50 suit. It's fine. No one's going to judge you for your fashions. Just wear a suit and tie and some nice shoes. No dirty jokes, please. You know, I hate to say that, but I've seen some dirty jokes by attorneys and experts and people over the years. No crude jokes. And also watch your manners, but most importantly, just wear a suit and tie to court. Dress appropriately. Give me a slang word for surveying. Michael Kampf.
None's coming to mind.
What's a slang word for a total station?
A gun, of course.
The gun. I use the gun to measure the boundary. And everyone's saying, what is that? Use the gun to measure a boundary? Like, they don't understand. So you don't use colloquialisms. Don't be rude or hostile. I've seen so many novice expert witnesses who stare at their feet the entire time testimony is given. They're staring at their feet, trying to avoid eye contact with everybody. Why? It makes you look guilty when you won't look someone in the eye. Look them in the eye. And if you're a seasoned expert, you look at the attorney to get the question asked. Dr. Nettleman, did you survey this boundary? And then you turn and look at the judge in the eye and say, yes, I did survey this boundary. Turn around. What did you use to survey the boundary? Then you look at the judge. I used a robotic Leica total station. And you're talking to the judge because the judge is the one who's going to decide. So give the judge your attention, unless there's some kind of hostile stuff going on with the attorney. And then don't look at the judge. Look at the attorney and meet his gaze. What can I say about fees? Well, first of all, I like a straightforward fee schedule. It's so many dollars per hour plus expenses. There's no half cost for travel. There's no double cost for court testimony. There's no all this other stuff. It just makes me stressed out because I have to have my bookkeeper make the invoice. I got to have my CFO make sure the numbers look good every quarter. I got to make sure the attorney and the landowner are not surprised by the bill. And there's no surprises when it's a flat rate, no matter what. It's hourly rate plus expenses, no questions asked, period. No gotchas. The mileage rate is $1 per mile for a heavy duty truck. It's $2 a mile for the airplane, and plus actual expenses. And that's it. No funny numbers, no marking up subcontractors, no charging big money for like pieces of paper or printing or junk like that. And a lot of times I don't even bill for the little stuff. I go and do a 3-day survey. I don't charge for meals because I hate keeping Receipts, hate it. I don't charge for printing unless it's big printing jobs like producing discovery. So the little stuff, just give it for free. Now, Jason says, do land cases usually only have a judge? Well, I've been involved in, I don't know, 100+ land cases over the years. I've never had a jury trial, never. But I do have a jury trial coming up in Houston, which is exciting. So it doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. There's always exciting new things to do. But really, I've never seen a jury trial with a land case before. What do you think, Steve? Have you ever seen a jury trial? You've ever been involved in a land jury trial?
No, I haven't. As close as I came in Northern Idaho years ago, actually the first case I ever testified in, there was criminal activities between the plaintiff and the defendant, and it looked like we were going to go to a jury, but the judge said, no, we're dealing with a boundary. That's another issue. So I've never been involved in one that had a jury either. Okay, that's interesting. Neither have I. So, make it as straightforward as possible. And I've gotten to the point where I do have a fee sheet where I give people expert cost. What do I call this thing? Expert fee. Expert rate sheet. I don't know what I'm going to call this thing. Fee. Well, anyways, I have a 1-page Word doc that everyone gets, and it says you're going to get charged $4.75 an hour for my time, $1 per mile for the truck, $2 a mile for the personal airplane, just really basic in big letters. And now I feel bad because I griped at my wife for not being able to find it last week, and now I can't find it either. So I guess that's kind of like comeuppance or something, payback or something. But, just make it really simple, because the one thing that clients hate is not knowing what you're going to charge them. What is this going to cost me? That's the first question when they sign a contract. And I've started telling clients, I have no idea exactly, but let me give you an idea. And this is what I tell them. I say 2 days to do the record research, the deed research, 2 days to do the field work, and 2 days to write your report. That's my best guess. 2 days, 2 days, 2 days. And it's super simple. They can remember that. It's really simple. And if it's more than that, I'll tell them. If it's less than that, I tell them I gave you a big discount. It only costs 5 days. And they feel like they got a good deal. But keep the fees really simple, because you don't want to frustrate your attorney or your landowner client. Now, another thing that I've really gotten into lately is exhibits. I had an issue last month where a lady tripped. She was going to eat at, we'll call this McDonald's. And she had a big McDonald's meal. It was fantastic, good stuff. And she decided she was still hungry. So she walked directly from the McDonald's to the Denny's right next door. And in between going from lunch number 1 to lunch number 2, she tripped, fell, and severely injured herself. She sued both the McDonald's and the Denny's, and they both want to know, where did she fall? Did she fall in the McDonald's parking lot or in the Denny's parking lot? Had to do a survey. Well, I said, what can I do to improve the exhibit of this case? We laser scanned both restaurants' parking lots, and we showed where she fell versus where the boundary line is, where the retaining wall is, where the parking ties are. It was cool. 3-dimensional photography, laser scan. It was really nice exhibit. And I said, if you want to top that, we'll also overlay a aerial photograph of a Phantom 4 drone on top of all this to get a real 3-dimensional pic. It's really cool. So it's not what you know as a land surveyor. It's what you can explain to a layman. So A layman has a hard time looking at just a crummy survey with a bunch of lines. What are these lines? This is the, this is the Denny's, this is the McDonald's. But if you can three-dimensionally bring them into the world using laser scan, it blows their mind. I can see this. There's the Denny's sign. There's the McDonald's sign. Here's the boundary. We're like immersing ourselves in the Denny's parking lot. Amazing. Now, what is the other benefit to doing that? You can charge more for it. It would have taken half a day to do the boundary survey. It took 2 days to do the laser scan and the UAS. So the more value you can offer your clients, the more money you can charge for your services. It was the most expensive McDonald's parking lot survey that ever been done. It was amazing. It's like a work of art. And the client was happy. Now, what else could you use as demonstrative exhibits? If you're doing a court trial about an ancient boundary dispute, what would you bring with you to this trial? Anybody?
Pictures of the monumentation.
That's true. Now that is evidence of the survey. What about a demonstrative exhibit? So first of all, you got to show up in period costume. So you have to wear what a surveyor would wear, like 1700. Now, second, you would bring a compass. How about a Jacob's staff, a chain, 100-foot chain? All of these things are like, what would it be like surveying an ancient boundary? Well, here's all the equipment we used. A scythe, yeah, that'd be great. All this stuff. So you have to explain how the boundary was originally done. And to do that, I've got a whole room full of old surveying equipment I bring with me to show the judge how this was done. Well, why is the survey from 1900 not as accurate as the survey today? Look at the chain. The idiot, the stupidest person on the crew used the chain. And the judge thinks, oh yeah, that makes sense. Therefore, angles are more important. And remember that each exhibit tells a story. You got to be able to tell your story to the judge. Are you 100% sure of your boundary? Or let me ask you this. You're testifying, David Crook, and you say, I ask you as the attorney, would new information about this boundary change your report? Yes or no?
Yes.
Are you sure about that? In every circumstance, would it change your opinion?
Not in every circumstance.
There you go. So would new information change your report? Maybe.
Possibly.
Possibly, I like that. Possibly. Exactly. So if it was good new information, yes, it would. If it was bad new information, no, it wouldn't. So possibly. And when I write an expert report, I say at the last sentence, the expert opinions are based on all of the information available to me at that time. Could I change my opinion?
Sure.
Possibly. And that's okay, because you're not some omnipresent being. You don't know everything all the time. And if you had better information, it could. Do not discuss the case during the trial or the deposition. Don't walk in the hallway during the trial and start talking, shop. Just keep your mouth shut from beginning to end. I had an attorney years ago corner me in the bathroom and want to ask me questions about what's going on, the opposing attorney. Get out of the bathroom. Don't answer any questions. Admit when facts work against you, because there's no case, there's no survey where the facts are 100% in your favor. Just a fact. And also, take a look at the Seek expert witness. This is my best advice to anyone who wants to be or who is an expert surveyor. Get professional advice. There are entire industries who train, who help you become a better expert. And if you can walk away with one nugget of information from an 8-hour class, it's worth it. And when I took my class last year, I thought most of it was not very relevant for me, but just this teacher convincing me to raise my rate by $100 an hour made me $100,000 last year. That's it. And that was worth the darn course. Oh yeah, John Briscoe's Survey the Courtroom, great book. And just remember, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know enough to become a helpful aid to the court. So when is a good time to become an expert surveyor? Whenever you want to. The time's now. So let's take a minute and let's get some questions. We got 10 minutes and I can answer any questions you guys have.
Tony?
Go for it, Steve.
Just real quickly, the very first courtroom experience I was in, the attorney unfortunately did not want to meet with me. He was about 45 miles away. He says, I'll ask you all the questions when I get there. I was prepared for the evidence he was after, and that was, of course, their big mistake. And this is the attorney that was coming up against me. Okay, it wasn't the one I was working for. So anyway, one of his gringo folks actually put forth a hypothetical question to me. And I had already read all of John Briscoe and other things, the Surveyor in Court, and he lost me in the first 30 seconds of it. I looked him straight in the eye, thanks to having listened before, and said, I don't understand that. Would you please repeat that question? He got befuddled and never asked another question. I thought the judge was going to kick everybody out because everybody was laughing. That was a good first lesson. If you don't understand the question, do not answer it.
I love that. That's a fantastic piece of advice. That's a nugget that all you guys can take home with you, and that'll be it, and you'll be finished. If you do not understand a question you're being asked, say, I do not understand your question. Full stop. And the attorney often will repeat the exact same thing he just said. I'm sorry, I still do not understand your question. And, be apologetic, say, I'm sorry, whatever you need to do. But if you do not 100% understand what he's asking, do not answer the question. I'm going to call the judge and we're going to get you, thrown in jail for not answering. I'm answering everything I can, sir, but I just do not understand your question. They'll threaten you. Absolutely. Don't answer the question if you don't understand it. That's great, Steve. Thank you.
Schroeder has his hand up.
Okay, Michael, what's up?
Excellent presentation, Tony. Really, really good. Hey, another suggestion. We had, this was years ago at one of our state surveying conferences, sort of facilitated by Walt Robillard, a mock trial. We had a surveyor that was defending a survey, and we had expert witnesses, and we actually got an actual judge to come in. It was a hoot. It was a lot of fun, and really kind of a good short course thing for a conference. So,
I love that. And, I was at one of Walt's mock trials many, many years ago as a middle school student. And I wish he would have kept that stuff. Like, where is his mock trial material? Lost to history. That's a great suggestion, though.
We're gonna be so I'll chime in real quick. The conference next, where are we at? End of March, beginning of April here at it'll be a 4-state one. We're gonna do another mock trial as well. We've done them probably about every other year, maybe every 3 years here in Nevada. We'll do a mock trial.
That's great. Is that the California kind of tri-state deal?
Yeah, so this year we're going to be Nevada, Arizona, Utah, and California, and then a West Fed component to it as well. So
okay.
End of March, it's like March 30th through April 2nd or something like that.
Well, Steve says it's on Walt's floor someplace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's awesome.
I know his kids are gonna completely trash all of his crap. Like they're coming up with like shovels, like snow shovels, and snow shovel it into a dumpster and sell his house in about 2 milliseconds. So I'm actually going down there next weekend to get all of his survey instruments and his books before his kids, take him to the pawn shop. So yeah, we're going to find that damn mock trial material. Joe, you had a question.
But Tony, I was going to make a comment. You had it on one of your slides about being overly modest. So my first courtroom experience was not as an expert. I was there as an audience member because I had a friend who was trying a case and he knew I might be interested. And a very innocent question, the cross-examining attorney said to the surveyor, "So you're pretty knowledgeable about this stuff, right?" And the surveyor says, "Well, not really." And he said a whole bunch of other things that were also negative. So I just wanted you to reinforce that while you shouldn't be an egotist, you also have to be firm and definitive about your ability to testify.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to be confident in what you're saying. Are you, how confident are you of the boundary line? Well, you can't be 100% certain of anything. It's all, analysis. But I tell people, I don't care how much money I was given to spend, how much time I was given by the court. This is the absolute best analysis and determination I could give you. This is the best I've got for you. I've turned over every rock. I've explored every alternate possibility. And this is what I firmly believe is the best boundary. And don't say, well, it could be this or it could be that. We had a comment from Jason. He says, I can't answer the question you've asked because you left out the parts that matter. And it's not a yes or a no answer. Jason, that is asking for trouble. That's way too much. That's way too many words to give an attorney. Other questions? Yes, sir, George.
My first deposition was pretty interesting. After about a half an hour of the opposing attorney asking me questions, we had a little break, and the attorney that I was working for kind of pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you're doing a good job, but you only have to answer yes or no. Remember that this guy is not our friend. He's not on our side. He's out here trying to ask you questions that are going to trip you up or get you to contradict yourself in a previous answer. So just take your time and answer slowly and carefully and truthfully, and you'll be fine. We're doing a good job." I thought that was good advice. It really helped me through the rest of the deposition, which took another hour and a half. I was really enjoying it.
That's great. And you'll find that when you do a good job and you're truthful and you know your stuff, if you really know the facts, if you know your analysis, you don't have to be scared of deposition. There's nothing they can trip you up on. And it always surprises me the very rudimentary questions opposing counsel spends their time on, and they get focused like a shiny ball on some kind of like completely irrelevant topic. And you're just loving it because this has nothing to do with anything. And they're just burning up your time and money and not adding anything to the conversation. I was recently deposed in a water boundary case by a very, I'm going to say a well-known attorney, because this attorney wrote a lot of the peer review articles about water boundaries in Florida. I mean, I read this guy as a PhD student for years, loved his work. And now he's going to cross-examine me on water boundaries. This is terrifying. Well, he asked some good questions, but it wasn't like I was speaking to like the Pope or something. That's what I thought. I thought this is the Pope of water boundaries. This guy is amazing. And his questions were relevant, but they weren't like anything like mind-blowing. And I said, I got myself stressed out for nothing. Because I never get nervous during a deposition, but I was a little nervous. It was like, this guy, I've been reading his papers for 10 years, and just don't let yourself get psyched out. You've got to be able to just go in there cool, answer truthfully, just like George said. And if you answer truthfully and you really believe the facts and the evidence is on your side, you got nothing to worry about. You're just there making money, having a good time.
That's good stuff. Sean had a good one in the chat. What advice would you give a crew chief working on data collection into the survey that'll be used for future court case?
Well, Sean, it would surprise you for me to say this, but I've had to review a lot of surveyors' work, and these surveyors never kept any field notes, never had their instrument calibrated a day in its life, just did not do basic things. So as long as you're doing the industry standard practice, keeping your field notes, getting your instrument calibrated, taking pictures of monuments, take a lot of pictures, just basic things go a long way.
That's good stuff. Then Schroeder's got his hand up. Go for it, Schroeder.
Yeah, another thing that I kind of learned doing it is that the day of your deposition or the day of a trial appearance, everything's off your calendar. I mean, you wake up, this is your A game. This is the one thing. Don't be thinking about, hey, this should only take a couple hours and I can do this in the afternoon. You want to be 100% focused and set your fees the same way. So you're going to be wasted anyway and drained. So just figure, hey, if you finish early, you can go for a walk or go golfing, whatever turns your crank, but don't figure that it's a part day deal.
Exactly. And, I typically allocate at least 2 days of review before I ever go to deposition. And I've had deposition canceled 2 and 3 times for the same client. So I spend 16 hours of billable time this week reviewing documents. It gets canceled. Then I review it again next month, it gets canceled. Then I review it again and actually do the deposition. But it's probably going to take you at least 2 full days of document review right before the deposition to do a 2-hour deposition. And that's fine. If you have an attorney that doesn't want to pay you for that preparation, fire him, quit. Because it takes so much energy and so much time, but you have to narrowly focus on just a few hours at deposition or trial. But if you prepare for 2 days for a 2-hour trial, it'll pay off. Like people know that you know all the facts. And don't just show up at deposition not having reviewed the file from 2 years ago and look like a total moron, know nothing. So make sure you spend a lot of time reviewing all of your documents before you do any of this testimony. Yes, sir. George.
Another thing we need to remember as surveyors is we're probably educating the attorney we're working for, as well as the client we're working for, as well as the judge in the case. Most attorneys don't know a lot about land surveying. We're the experts. We have to guide them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had 3 attorneys this week apologize and say, I don't know much about real property, but I'm going to be the attorney's case. Don't worry about it. I'll teach you all about it before we even go to trial or anything. I'll be your professor. I'll teach everything you know about land surveying and about real property. And it drives me crazy that people apologize to me. That's one of my pet peeves. You can do whatever you want to me. Just don't apologize for whatever you do. But I'm so sorry. I don't know anything about land surveying. Oh gosh, here we go. But you say, look, I'll be your mentor. I'll teach you everything you need to know. I'll walk you through it step by step. There's no rush, and we'll learn it together. I say the attorney knows all the procedural stuff. They know how to file a complaint. They know how to answer a motion. I know all the subject matter. You do the procedural stuff. I'll teach you the subject matter. Now, Sean also says, should my field notes be, oh no, that was somebody else, Jen. Yeah. Jen says, should my field notes be in the data collector or on paper? Well, I do both. I have a data collector, which has all the raw data, angles and distances. And I do a hard field notebook with the job, the weather, the field crew, any relevant, good monument finds, write them in there. So you should have, 2 sets of field notes, one digital and one on your hard copy book.
I see Dr. Priva's got his unmuted. Leading into that next week, Dr. Elgin is going to present all on surveyor notes and making sure that your survey is defendable as well. And that's next week's topic. So kind of along the same lines of expert witness stuff. So